Ever wonder why the FIFA World Cup is such a big deal? Let's unravel the legacy of this global phenomenon.
Hi, I'm Leah, feeling curious about today's topic.
And I'm Garrett, ready to kick off some fascinating insights.
Welcome to Laid Back Learning with Leah and Garrett.
Today, we're diving into the world of the FIFA World Cup, the most watched sporting event on the planet, famous for high drama on the field and a cultural footprint that stretches into music, fashion, and national identity.
I remember as a kid watching the 1998 World Cup with my family. Tiny Leah trying to follow the matches and wondering why everyone was so emotionally invested. The sound of the anthems, the flags everywhere, it felt like the whole world synced up for a month. It stuck with me because, it was more than sport. It was shared ritual.
All right, let's set the stage. The FIFA World Cup is the global championship for senior men's national soccer teams. FIFA is the sport's worldwide governing body. It runs every 4 years, a quadrennial cycle, with only breaks in 1942 and 1946 because of World War II. The tournament crowns the best national team among members of 6 continental confederations. Those are the regional football unions like UEFA in Europe and CONMEBOL in South America.
Before the finals, there's qualification. That's the long set of preliminary matches over about 3 years where hundreds of national teams compete for spots. As of 2026, the final tournament features 48 teams, which is an expansion from the 32-team format used since 1998. Hosts get in automatically. For 2026, the United States, Mexico, and Canada all qualified as co-hosts, and the viewership is staggering. Billions tune in at some point, with the 2022 final alone drawing around 1.5 billion viewers across platforms.
At its heart, the World Cup is simple. National teams assemble their best eligible players and play a group stage followed by knockouts until one champion remains. But the story that made it massive took decades. Let's roll back to where it started and build from there.
The first World Cup took place in Uruguay in 1930. 13 teams joined despite long ocean voyages for the Europeans. Lucien Laurent, a French forward, scored the first ever World Cup goal in the opening match against Mexico. Uruguay, already Olympic champions, hosted in part to mark their centenary of independence. They beat Argentina 4-2 in the final. A quick note on the name Jules Rimet. He was a pioneering FIFA president who pushed the idea of a standalone world championship outside the Olympics. His vision turned into this recurring global ritual.
Early editions were shaped by travel limits and money. Long sea trips and the Great Depression made attendance uneven. By the late 1930s, the tournament paused because World War II forced cancellations in 1942 and 1946. When it came back in 1950, Brazil hosted and reached a decisive final match day at the Maracanã in Rio. Uruguay shocked them in the Maracanazo, which became a byword for an earth-shaking upset. Through the post-war years, the field stabilized at 16 teams, then expanded to 24 in 1982 and 32 in 1998 as the game spread, and FIFA added more slots for Africa, Asia, and North America.
Those expansions mattered because they opened doors for breakthrough runs like Cameroon reaching the quarterfinals in 1990, South Korea finishing 4th in 2002, Ghana's heartbreaking near semi in 2010, Costa Rica shocking people in 2014, and Morocco finishing 4th in 2022. Still, Europe and South America have historically dominated the deep knockout rounds. Every World Cup champion so far comes from those two continents. Why do you think that stayed so consistent even as more teams joined?
I think it's a mix of infrastructure and long-standing football culture, decades of elite youth systems, deep pro leagues, and resources. That compounds over time. Also, tournament experience matters. Knockout football is its own craft. But the gap has narrowed. Morocco in 2022 is a great example of high organization and belief closing that distance.
Speaking of champions, Brazil leads with 5 titles, and they're the only nation to have played in every World Cup. Germany and Italy each have 4. Argentina has 3, capped by the 2022 win over France. France and Uruguay have 2. England and Spain have 1. The modern trophy you see today debuted in 1974. It was designed by Silvio Gazzaniga, an Italian sculptor. It's 36 centimeters tall, made of 18-karat solid gold, weighs about 6.175 kilograms, and the winners since 1974 are engraved on its underside. The original, the Jules Rimet Trophy, was awarded from 1930 to 1970. Brazil got to keep it after their third title in 1970, but it was stolen in 1983 and never recovered.
A neat detail. Since 2006, the reigning world champion can wear the FIFA Champions badge on their jersey until a new winner is crowned. Also, teams don't keep the real trophy after the ceremony. They get a gold-plated replica, while the solid gold original stays under FIFA's care. Building on what Leah said about the expansion, 2026 uses that 48-team format with a revised group stage. The stated goal is broader geographic representation while keeping the competition credible. That tension between inclusivity and elite intensity is kind of the World Cup's eternal balancing act.
Quick side path on the larger ecosystem. The FIFA Women's World Cup started in 1991 and has grown fast. Men's Olympic football is under 23, with a few overage players. That protects the World Cup's senior status. And FIFA used to run the Confederations Cup as a dress rehearsal in the host nation. It ended after 2017 as priorities shifted to an expanded Club World Cup. When you step back, you see how the calendar evolves to manage player workload and commercial goals at the same time.
Not to ignore the darker side, in 2015 there was a major corruption case involving FIFA officials, with indictments in the United States and arrests in Zurich. That led to reforms and even postponed parts of the 2026 bidding process for a while. I bring it up because big global events attract big money. Governance has to keep pace so the football stays front and center.
Let's unpack a debated piece of history. Uruguay wears 4 stars above their crest. 2 are for their World Cup wins in 1930 and 1950. The other 2 refer to their Olympic triumphs in 1924 and 1928, which were open world championships under FIFA's authority back then. FIFA has allowed those stars, but not everyone agrees on counting Olympic titles the same way. I get the logic for Uruguay, but I also wonder about consistency for other nations. Why is this the exception and not a broader rule?
I'm kind of with the allowance here. Context matters. In 1924 and 1928, those Olympic tournaments functioned as the top-level world championship under FIFA's rules at the time. Uruguay's dominance there is part of why FIFA launched the standalone World Cup in 1930 and chose Uruguay to host. So wearing 4 stars feels like honoring that full lineage. It's less about changing the standard today and more about recognizing a unique historical bridge from Olympic world titles to the modern World Cup.
I hear that, but I get cautious because symbols set precedents. Great Britain won Olympic football in 1908 and 1912, but those were amateur only, which is not the same as an open world championship. If Uruguay's case hinges on the 1920s being open and FIFA run, then it is a special slice of time. Still, I can see a fan asking why not apply a clean rule like stars only for World Cups. Maybe the real answer is that star conventions are a blend of regulation and tradition. FIFA can allow a specific case without rewriting the whole rulebook.
Yeah, that checks out. The consistency question is fair, but history is messy. I think Uruguay's 4 stars tell a complete story of their early global supremacy. If anything, it sparks curiosity about that era, which is a win for football history nerds like us.
Pop culture snapshot. Maracanazo has become shorthand for a seismic upset that haunts a favorite. And the trophy silhouette is basically visual shorthand for triumph. It shows up in ads, posters, and even cake toppers. It's wild how a single object can anchor so many national memories.
All right, let's switch it up. What if the 1942 and 1946 World Cups hadn't been canceled? Germany and Brazil reportedly sought to host 1942. If that tournament had gone ahead, the trajectory of early champions might look totally different. You could see Italy or Germany adding to their tallies, or Brazil catching fire earlier on home soil and changing the weight of the Maracanazo story in 1950.
And players' careers lost to the war years make this even more bittersweet. Entire primes vanished. If 1942 and 1946 had been played, some legends we barely know might be household names. Also, tactics evolved through big tournaments. Imagine certain formations or pressing styles emerging earlier because coaches had that stage to iterate. It could have accelerated the tactical arms race by a decade.
Plus, competitive balance. South America and Europe might have traded blows differently through the 40s. If Brazil had a title before 1950, the psychological burden in Rio is lighter. Maybe there's no Maracanazo as we know it. Or if a European power claimed 1942 and 1946, the early perception of continental dominance would tilt even more to Europe, influencing seeding, confidence, and how federations invested in development.
Real talk, even club football might have shifted. Post-war migration patterns and scouting exploded later. 2 uninterrupted World Cups in the 40s could have sped up international player movement and coaching exchanges. The ripple effects reach everything from youth academies to how broadcasters package the sport. It's fascinating and honestly a little poignant to consider what was lost and what might have been gained. All of those what-ifs show how fragile sporting history can be and why the World Cup feels so layered. Thanks for joining us on this journey through the World Cup.
Stay curious and catch you next time on Laid Back Learning.